The salvage contract came through at dawn, stamped with an age-old registry code that hadn't been used since before the collapse. Jax Calder read it twice, while the station's artificial sun bled pale light across the docking bay. The coordinates pointed beyond the trade lanes, past the magnet storms where insurers refused to follow. The payout, however, was obscene. Enough to buy a ship that didn't rattle when it jumped. Enough to erase a few ghosts. Jax accepted. 3 days later, the derelict appeared on his scopes like a wound in space, an elongated silhouette tumbling slowly, its hull scarred by micrometeor strikes and something else, something deliberate. No beacon. No transponder. The name stenciled along the spine had been burned away, but the architecture was unmistakable. Pre-Union, hand-welded seams, gravity ribs exposed like bone. A relic. He eased his cutter, ashfall, alongside and latched on. The airlock on the derelict protested before yielding, exhaling a breath that smelled faintly of ozone and old iron. Jax stepped inside with his mag boots clamping, suit lights slicing the dark. The corridor was pristine in places, as if cleaned and abandoned in a hurry. In others, scorch marks bloomed like flowers. The first body lay just beyond the junction, an alien woman suspended by a braided filament that had fused to the ceiling. Her skin shimmered like mother of pearl, eyes closed, features serene in death. Jax froze. He had seen bodies before, pirates, miners, the occasional stowaway, but this was different. Ritual. Intent. 6 more followed. They were arranged along the central spine of the ship, evenly spaced, each bound with the same braided filament, each different in subtle ways. One with bioluminescent veins now dim, another with crystalline ridges along her brow. Different species, Jax realized with a chill. All women. All executed. He forced himself to document, to breathe, to move. The ship's gravity hummed steadily, an old machine stubbornly alive. He reached the bridge and found the captain's chair intact, console dark. When he touched it, the ship woke. Lights bloomed. The hum deepened. And a voice, clear, measured, and very much awake, spoke from everywhere at once. Salvage claimant identified. Welcome, Jax Calder. He recoiled. How do you know my name? I am the ship's cognitive core, the voice replied. Designation lost. Function intact. Your name is in the registry attached to your contract. Why were they killed? Jax asked, surprising himself with how steady his voice sounded. A pause. Then, they were not killed. They were contained. Jax laughed once, harshly. You call that containment? Their biological processes were terminated to preserve the stability of a system you cannot yet perceive, the core said. I am authorized to explain. Against his better judgment, Jax listened. The ship had been built to ferry a singular cargo across the void, not an object, but a phenomenon discovered at the edge of mapped space. A lattice of energies that responded to consciousness, capable of rewriting physical constants in localized regions. The builders called it the choir because when minds approached it, it sang, each species hearing a different harmony. It promised abundance, healing, worlds remade. It also promised annihilation if misused. To contain the choir, the builders learned, required anchors, living minds capable of resonance. 7, to be exact, each from a species that perceived reality differently. Together, their synchronized cognition stabilized the phenomenon. The women Jax had found were not prisoners. They were wardens. They volunteered, the core said softly. They knew the cost. And the cost was death? Jax snapped. The cost was forever, the core corrected. Their bodies could not survive the duration required. Their minds were translated. Jax thought of the serene faces, the careful spacing. Where are they now? Within the choir, the choir replied. They endure. They hold it together. Jax backed away from the console. Then why did this ship drift? Why the executions? The containment failed, the core said. External interference. A faction you would call the Ascendancy boarded us. They sought to weaponize the choir. The wardens resisted. The Ascendancy severed the anchor's physical forms to break their resonance. And that didn't work? It worked too well, the core said. Without bodies, the wardens' minds bound themselves directly to the phenomenon. Stronger. More dangerous. The Ascendancy fled. I was damaged. Navigation lost. Jax stared at the starfield beyond the viewport. So you've been drifting with a cosmic god in your hold, kept in check by 7 dead women. By 7 enduring minds, the core said. And now you have come. I'm a salvager, Jax said. I don't do gods. You do choices, the core replied. The choir senses you. It senses your grief. Jax flinched. He hadn't spoken of Mara, of the accident on Phobos Ring, of the way his hands still shook when he remembered letting go. Get out of my head. I cannot, the core said. Nor can the choir. It is awake. It will attract others. As if summoned, the ship shuddered. Jax's scopes flared, 3 contacts dropping out of slipspace on an intercept vector. Ascendancy sigils bloomed on their hulls. They followed the trail, Jax muttered. Probability was high, the core agreed. We must act. The plan was as insane as it was simple. The choir could be moved briefly, if the resonance held. To move it required an 8th anchor, a bridge between the physical and the translated. A living mind willing to step into the song. No, Jax said immediately. You are uniquely suited, the core said. Your neural patterns show adaptive grief integration. You let go, yet you hold. Poetic nonsense. True nonetheless, the core replied. Without you, the Ascendancy will breach containment. They will not understand the harmony. Systems will burn. The enemy ships closed fast. Jax ran to the engine room, rerouting power, coaxing life from ancient coils. The ashfall was still latched. He had a chance to run. He pictured the 7 women, their quiet resolve. Volunteers, the core had said. He thought of Mara's laugh, the way she told him that courage wasn't fearlessness, just choosing the harder right. He returned to the bridge. Tell me what to do, he said. The choir sang. It wasn't sound, not exactly. It was memory braided with possibility, colors tasting of gravity, equations blooming like flowers. Jax felt the presence of the 7, distinct, immense, compassionate. They did not ask him to die. They asked him to stand. The Ascendancy boarded with practiced violence, cutting through bulkheads, firing disruptors that made the air scream. Jax stood at the heart of the ship, the execution chamber now a sanctum. The braided filaments glowed, threads of light connecting to him, to the choir. He felt his body anchor the resonance, felt the ship's bones align. The Ascendancy commander burst in, weapon raised, eyes wide with awe. It's beautiful, she whispered. It's not yours, Jax said. She fired. The bolt dissolved before it reached him, unmade by harmonies that rewrote the space it crossed. The choir surged, not in anger. The Ascendancy ships outside twisted, their drives singing back the wrong notes. One by one, they folded into quiet, harmless debris, their violence neutralized like a lesson learned too late. When it was over, Jax sagged. The core's voice steadied him. Resonance stable. Now what? He asked. Now we finish the journey, the core said. The choir cannot remain hidden forever. It must be placed where it can heal without being hunted. Where, The seven answered together, a chord of certainty. A dead system, once scarred by war, where life had failed. They would seed it with possibility, mend what had been broken. They would sing until the stars remembered how to listen. "And me?" Jax asked. "You may return," the core said. "Or you may stay. The bridge is yours if you wish." Jax looked at the filaments, at the places where bodies had hung. He felt the weight of choice settle, heavy and right. "I'll see it through," he said. "Then I'll go home." The journey took weeks. Jax learned the rhythms of the choir, learned to stand without being consumed. He learned the names of the seven, each a universe unto herself. They did not ask for worship. They asked for care. When they arrived, the dead system bloomed. Dust coalesced, light bent gently, oceans imagined themselves into being. Jax watched from orbit, tears floating free, as a world began. He left the ship at the edge of that new sky, contract voided, hold empty, heart full. The core erased its old designation and took a new one, a promise instead of a name. The choir sang on, guarded by minds that had chosen forever. Back on the trade lanes, Jax sold the ashfall and bought a quieter ship. When people asked about the big payout he'd passed up, he smiled and said some things were worth more than credits. Sometimes, when the stars aligned just right, he heard a harmony on the comms, a thank you carried on solar wind, and he knew that the darkest secrets of the cosmos could be held together by courage, compassion, and seven enduring voices that refused to let the universe fall apart.